Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business with Siyonna's podcast, the business where classroom theory meets boardroom reality. I'm Siyonna, a business information systems student at the University of Pittsburgh.
And I am her mother, Dr. Nkem. I'm an entrepreneur, an executive, and a lifelong advocate for financial independence, especially among women.
So, in our last episode, we explored economics and the moves through markets and mindsets. But today, we're expanding on what drives almost every single decision in business and life, which is money. Specifically financial literacy, accounting, and how programs like Smart Women Securities help me connect the numbers to real world confidence.
And that's why the title of this episode is Financial Accounting and Smart Women Securities, Numbers, Narratives, and Navigating Wealth. So I think this is going to be a good one because money isn't just about the numbers, it's about the narratives. It's about how we understand our worth and make choices that align with our goals. For me, women empowerment is something dear and near to my heart. I grew up with four sisters. I have three daughters, and I was raised by a very strong woman. So I do understand the benefits of an empowered woman. And also in the work that we do in our nonprofit with Health Links, we also support women's health, and also as a co-founder of Bind Associates Business Integrated Network in the Diaspora, we do have a program called Bind Women, where we focus on financially empowering women, and we partner with all other entities that are focused on doing just that. So this topic for me is very important, and I hope that we can share some good learnings in this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll just start with where I started with financial accounting. I took my first course this past fall semester. And when I first started, I was really nervous, only because my peers were telling me, oh, each exam is like 30% of the
Oh,
grade. And you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. And like there's no in between. So I didn't know what to expect walking in. But luckily I had a professor first and foremost. But I learned that it was like learning a new language, with assets and liabilities, equity, retained earnings, and all the things. So once I was able to like connect the dots, from reading my textbook or practicing with friends, I realized that accounting can be like storytelling of a company, and each number can represent a decision, a risk, or even a success.
absolutely. It represents a decision, a risk, or a success. The success part is what I like. And it's so funny. You mentioned how you are kind of walked into accounting at school. I fell in love with accounting similarly, like when I was doing my master's in public health at Tulane in New Orleans. Um, I aced my accounting 101 class, and my professor took notice of me, and she encouraged me to do accounting 102 as an elective, and I aced that as well. And then she said, you know what, you have to go and do a full-on MBA, which I completed at George Washington University. And I think just really understanding how numbers work, sometimes it starts off scary, but it's really not as
Yeah.
as bad. Let me put it that way. And fast forward, I look at financial statements. I looked at financial statements as an executive and now for my businesses, and they are business stories, as you said, that are told in numbers. They show what a company values, it shows how you perform, and it also shows where you're going, where you're headed. And I think that's important.
Yeah. It's actually funny how we kind of got into accounting the same way. And, shout out to the professors out there that actually see what they're doing and push them to do even more. So, going deeper into the class, um, financial accounting is a lot about recording, summarizing, and reporting transactions that happen in the day-to-day business. So we learned the basic accounting equation, which is assets equals liabilities plus stockholders' equity. So that's really the foundation of everything.
It is, and it's a very famous equation. I call it the ALE, assets equal liability and equity.
Yeah. So we also, on top of that, dived into the three main financial statements, which is one, the balance sheet, which shows what a company owns and owes, an income statement that tracks revenue and expenses over time, as well as the cash flow statement that follows the money that flows in and out, whether that's through operating, investing, financing, things like that. And then we also learned about the GAAP, which is the General Accepting Accounting Principles, and it shows why consistency matters when it comes to accounting and across the board in multiple companies. And of course, there's also adjusting bookkeeping and journal entries and making sure that each debit matches each credit.
I mean, I'm happy. I'm just happy to know that you get to learn this earlier than I did. I mean, understanding even the terminology of income statement and balance sheets and cash flow statement and debit and crediting and double entry and bookkeeping stuff. That's really neat and organized.
Yeah, and it is on paper. We did a lot of exercises, just doing it over and over to make sure we understand how to do it and how everything is supposed to be balanced. But I know in the real world it can get a little tricky. But what was even more interesting for me is that I had joined Smart Women Securities or SWS last year, which is a program that teaches women about investing, portfolio building, and just long-term financial planning. And I loved how I could take what I was learning there and bring it into the class and make it even more real for me.
I was so happy. I remember when you told me, "Hey, Mom, I'm trying to get into this program," and you did get into the program. I thought it was huge because that combination there is gold. Understanding the books and then learning how to make your money work for you. Um, in the real world, all the things that you've learned so far, it applies with some tweak to it, right? So financial accounting is not just about compliance, it's about your strategy. Those statements that you are looking at, they do tell you a story. And we leaders use that story to make decisions that impact lives, impact our employees' lives, our clients' success. So if the for example, if the income statement shows a rise in revenue, but the cash flow statement is showing there's negative cash, then that's a red flag right there because it means that you're selling, but you're not collecting your payments as fast enough to keep the business operational.
Yeah, so making sure you're tracking those cash flows in the different statements, making sure they're up to par, it could basically make or break a business.
Absolutely. I've seen profitable companies fail because they run out of cash. We see a lot of bankruptcies filed year after year. And I can just share a quick real story for one of my businesses. We had a contract and we looked profitable on paper for that contract, and the revenue was strong, expenses were reasonably controlled, but the cash flow was negative because the client was paying late. So we had to start leveraging lines of credits and loans while trying to renegotiate the contract to tighten the credit terms to survive. So it's a big deal for an organization. Another similar example is that the balance sheet might show strong assets, but if the liabilities grow faster, then you are in trouble. So you really have to think about how you manage both sides of that to be sure that you're running a strong business.
I think that's interesting because, like, hearing those real world examples, because we're taught to know all the ratios, making sure the assets are higher than their liabilities. You don't want to be in a space where you're kind of in like the red zone. So we focus a lot on accuracy and compliance as well. And just knowing that, interpretation is just as important as well. Yeah,
Yeah, we want to be in the black zone.
the good zone.
Very black zone. And this is a reality that you should be aware of. Like numbers would not tell you the whole story, right? So you do need some context. What's the market trend? that impacts your business? What's the consumer or customer behavior that you need to be aware of? Even your employee morale is important, right? So financial accounting in of itself is great, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And that's why most times when you are reviewing your financials on a monthly basis, you have to have the narrative, like to explain what the numbers actually mean, with all these things in mind, the market trend, the consumer behavior, employee morale, so on and so forth. So financial accounting gives you the map, but you still need a compass.
Hmm.
So that's how I will put it. So that said, I would want to shift gears just a little bit, if you let me, to talk about the program that you're part of, the Smart Women Securities program. I really like the fact that the program builds financial confidence, because that changes everything. In my language, Igbo, there is a saying that we have that says, "Akunesio BK," which, if I translate, it means wealth makes the heart strong. And it means that if you are financially confident, you're comfortable in making certain decisions in life, and just living in financial freedom. So when I first started handling budgets and stuff as an executive in corporate America, I had to learn how to interpret the financial statements and balance my portfolio budget. And as I started running my own businesses, again, I had to understand financial statements before I sign on off on them, right? So it could be a lot, though, to manage, depending on how big your
Right.
company
The
is
company.
or how fast you're scaling. Like, with medical links, for example, uh, by the second year of operations, we grew 1,000%. And in following years, about 240% every year. And eventually even got recognized by Inc. as a fast growing company in our region. At that time, I had to entrust a lot to our accountant. And to an extent, I probably over relied on that. So, back to the point that I'm making, that the financial accounting piece is the map, but there still needs to be that compass piece. And I was defaulting a little bit on that aspect of providing the right directive by looking at all the other factors. This got us in some financial trouble. So it's important that when you do run a business, to make that time to understand where every dollar goes and what story is telling, making sure the person who's handling your financial accounts understands more about the business, and not be too removed from it, because they cannot give you the true context of what you're working with. The last thing I'll add to that is financial reviews should happen more frequently. Now we do monthly finance meetings so that we can have a clear sense of what's going on sooner rather than later. We also do the quarterly and annual reviews, but now we also do the monthly reviews, pretty much how you would manage your personal finances on a month-to-month basis.
That sounds like it's a very in-depth process. And I feel like the program also emulated that. And even before you were admitted into the actual group, you had to go through a 10-week seminar series and just learning the basics so that when you're going in there, you're not completely blind. Like you have to have some background knowledge in order to make those decisions. And it does make me realize that it's a lot about taking ownership about the financial decisions you want to make. And it's not just about like saving or spending your money, but being strategic with how you do those things.
You are absolutely right. And I think for women more especially, it's critical. I mean, I've watched you in the past, couple months really be cautious about how you spend your money, how you also intentionally, put your time in to make money. I know you finally got a job at school, and we'll be talking about that in an upcoming episode on the leadership. But just the fact that you are able to just begin to not only learn but apply your learning. It's important. Too often women are taught to play it safe with money, to budget, not to build. But programs like SWS that you're part of is changing that narrative. We're also trying to do similar work with Bind Women. We are teaching young women to invest and to take risk intelligently so that you see finance more as a form of freedom, right? Not a chore. So I'm happy you get exposed to this, as I said, and at the level that you are, much, much more earlier than I was.
Yeah, and it just got me excited. So like I kept going, like trying to be I'm now a sector head in the group for in the
Oh, wow.
industrial sector. So I get to like learn specifically, yes, it's really fun being able to take what I've learned and then also pass it down to people that are also coming in. But I've also heard stories of people my age that are investing like amounts while in college. Well, there's like $20 here, $50 there, a payment plan
Nice.
of $5 a month, and eventually it becomes a portfolio. So just show me that like investing and wealth, it doesn't just start like what 30 years from now. It's about here and now, and it depends on your mindset here that later pays off.
And I think for me, that's one of the highlights of this podcast is, yes, this is us bringing, to the world what we do behind closed doors. And really, every parent's dream is to make sure that their children know better, do better than they did. Even your professors at school, when they teach you, their hope is that you become the future leader who's equipped with the knowledge that you need. As mentors, you also want to make sure that you're informing your mentees about things that you wished that you knew sooner, right? So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. So just to hear you live out that dream, live out that promise. And I know you're doing this with many more colleagues of yours, and I mean, our future, in my opinion, is bright as it should be. Um, so the one thing that you said that I wanted to piggyback on is you don't need to have a lot of money to start, but you need a plan. And the earlier you understand the relationship between assets and income, the more control you can have over your future. And I really am happy about that.
And I like that also taught me how to look at companies differently before I could see like a company name and be like, oh, I want to invest in that. But it's more than just liking a brand or you having it in your closet or seeing a bunch of ads about it. But it's about like you have to actually go in and analyze their balance sheet and the stock trends to see if it's even a good decision to invest in such a company. So you're no longer just a consumer, but you can be a potential investor in the companies that you see every day.
So what are like your top two preferred brands?
Oh, that's a great question. So what I'm researching right now, as in the industrial sector, I've seen that GEV is a pretty good company as long as Equifax, and they're trying to expand more and more, like WW Granger, like they want to break into the space because some of them are newer on the side of innovation. So they're trying to bring more and more of that. And I think you should want to hop on those companies that want to do better. So those
Oh,
are two.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. So am I looking at a potential investor in my business? Or
We'll have to look at your financial statements to make sure. But
of
yeah.
course. Well, let me go work hard to make sure that I have a great story to tell, right? If it's not great already, right? So that's cool to know.
So, hearing like through this conversation, what do you feel like a student like me should know even more about financial accounting for the basics?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, what I would say that I would like you to know more of is using numbers to make decisions. Um, Textbooks teach you to prepare the statements and um, key things that you have to know, how to be compliant. That's important. But teaching you how to read between the lines is really the part that it helps you make those decisions. So, for example, what does a shrinking gross margin mean for your pricing strategy? Or how does your inventory turnover affect your cash flow, right? In addition to that, I would like you to also know about forecasting. Those who are better predictors are always ahead, and you're able to plan for what's next. So those are the key things I'd like you to know more of.
I think financial accounting and investing, it takes a lot of discipline to actually, like you can learn about it, but actually going ahead and doing it yourself, you have to be disciplined enough to know when to spend here and when to save here. And whether it's like balancing books as a CEO and making sure you're watching that in your own financials, or just a college student tracking my personal budget. It's a lot about like being consistent with what you're trying to do and being aware of where your money is going.
I mean, you're right, and I think it teaches accountability. When you manage your money well, it's not just budgeting or making value-based decisions. For someone like me, I relocated as an adult from a cash system in Nigeria and Ghana to a credit system in the US, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge to relearn how to work with money, the kind of relationship I had with money, and I had to learn to become more self-aware and to start thinking like a CEO of my life, which is not an easy adjustment,
Mhm.
but it does correlate, right? If you understand that part from a personal perspective, it's easier to make more sound business judgment, and keep working on that.
I like the framework of being the CEO of your life. I think you take it that much more seriously. And I think with financial accounting and like SWS has taught me is like financial literacy isn't just about managing the money you have, but it can also empower you to make the decisions that you want to change your life.
I agree. And that empowerment, which we're pushing for, particularly for women, has a generational impact. We're watching legacy right here, you and I, and I hope that my grandkids in the future, can can benefit from that. But more importantly, before then, uh, friends around you, your younger sisters, and things like that, and you just help to pass it on. Financially, I think if women are stronger, they build communities, the communities thrive better. So it's not just only about the wealth, it's also about the wisdom, and it's about the legacy. That said, I think we would love to hear now from you. What's the one financial lesson that you wished that you had learned earlier in life, whether it was about saving, investing, or managing your credit?
Yes, please send us your thoughts. We might even feature your response in an upcoming episode. Who knows? So share your experience with us on our social media handles, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, at the Business Between Us, the Business Between Us podcast. You could also email us at businessbetweenus@gmail.com. You can even follow our personal LinkedIn's at Nkem OKK and Siyonna OKK. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow us at The Business Between Us.
So now let's wrap up with our key takeaways. So, what's your key takeaway?
Okay. I think mine would be that if you understand money, it gives you a certain power. And not necessarily a power to control others, but to control your own path and how you want your life to turn out. And actually taking the time to dive into financial literacy can be a form of self-care and self-respect to how you want to walk your everyday life.
I like that one. Anytime you talk about self-care, people think about it more in terms of
Spa
mental
and then,
health or
yeah.
physical health, but health is wealth, right? So financial literacy included as a self-care um, requirement. I like that, and I think I might pull on that thread and see if we can do like a post or blog or some learning about financial literacy and self-care. So for me, my key takeaways, two, one will be cash is king. Never ignore your cash flow. The second is that every financial decision that you make uh, can result in long-term financial recovery period if you're not careful. So you must understand what your trade-offs are. Your decision reflects your values. So the earlier you're able to align your values with a favorable financial decision making process, the stronger your foundation becomes and the happier you are. Sometimes if the values and the decisions you're making are off, you're in conflict and you either go, too far left, too far right. But I think mastering how to align your values, which matters, with favorable financial decisions, sets you up for a much, huge success, if I would say.
That's great. So that comes to the end of our episode. Next time we'll be talking about my mom's favorite, project management, and just managing projects effectively to stretch the dollars that you do have.
I can't wait for that one. It's definitely one of my favorites. I project manage everything. Like you have to talking about that financial accountability. If you can manage everything, project by project by project under an operational umbrella, I think you are meant to have success with that approach. So can't wait for that one. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Business Between Us.
Thank you. Bye.